90 seconds to go until the third and final race here at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix. Todd Harris, Freddie Carr, Matt Cornwell with you guys. It's all about accumulating the mass amount of points so you can get in that final race, Freddie. And we've got some good stories brewing in the middle of the pack.
We've got some good stories brewing everywhere, to be honest. We know that GBR are struggling. We've just heard of our chief umpire. They're currently on 3 points after 2 races. They're going to get deducted 2 points for contact in the previous start. So a really tough day for the Brits as they go down to 1 point.
That's very tough for Paul Goodison. Ben Ainsley handed this team over to him in first place. And how's he going to hand it back? He's really under pressure.
This is interesting. Everybody's at the bottom of the line now. They've seen what Australia have been doing to launch off the line. And it is an absolute traffic jam down there as every single boat is trying to fight for that one spot that is going to launch them perfectly. This is going to be much harder for Australia to execute. Denmark are rumbling nicely here. They've got the most speed. 28 seconds to go. Japan are the controlling boats. They're holding up the boats inside them. Japan might have just opened the door for the French and the Kiwis to come off the bottom. Spanish still looking at the top. That's where they were in race 2. Can they do a better job this time?
A good old-fashioned SIG alert on the 405 in the USA as we come up like 5 seconds to go. And here's where it gets chaotic. Who's going to time it right?
Oh, man. What? God, man, if Phil Robertson gets away with that, it will be something else. Apology for some industrial language there. Wowee, what a run into the top of the line there from Phil Robertson and the Spanish. They got it wrong in the start of race 2. They nailed it in the start of race 3. That was a proper cheeky manoeuvre.
This is the umpires. This is the umpires. Spain, you have been black flagged from the race.
Black flagged out of the race!
Phil Robertson!
Oh, God!
So that
Phil
means
Robertson goes from being Houdini to black flagged.
Oh, man, listen to the... Phil Robertson's not happy. He's been kicked out of this race. Send your boat back to the dock.
No one could get to us, Craig.
Oh, my goodness.
he's not happy about that black flag. That means he is disqualified. The umpires thought that was such a bad foul. They had the option
This is
to
the
eject
season
them from
2
the race.
leader. Just been
This
chucked out
is
the race.
leader. Yeah, that is huge for the context of SailGP for the season.
Right, I need to calm down. Let's get back on the 7 boats that are still racing. What are you saying, Todd?
I just heard someone say, well, that was lucky. And I wonder if it's coming off the American boat because they're currently sitting 3rd place overall. Spain was 1 point behind them. So
Here's
let's
the
look at this
replay,
one more
Todd.
time. Do you agree with the call?
I don't know, let me watch it. Let me watch it. There's lots of shouting. So we're looking at the Danish and the Spanish. Could they have got to him? Oh, and then the Americans. Oh, I think it's that probably the foul on the Americans is what I'm seeing there. We're on board with the Americans here. Would they have cut him in half if they kept going straight? Yes.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, they'd have sunk him, Matt. You're the rules expert.
You saw Jimmy's wheel there. He had to turn down the Spanish with a keep clear boat, and Jimmy had to avoid. But look at the Brits here. Look at the local team, the home favourites.
Paul Goodison taking over for Ben Ainsley, who is on baby duty. We congratulate him and his family for the birth of their son, Fox. He'll be back for the Denmark race. And this is the result that Goodison was hoping for when Ben Ainsley stepped off the boat.
Yeah, they need to win this race. Let's be honest. Let's not push anything else around it. They've had 2 bad races and deducted 2 points. They need 8 points from this race.
We talked about the pressure he's under. He seems to be doing just fine under the pressure. But again, it was all about the start, wasn't it? Really key. They got a good start. They'd learned from the previous 2 where they'd struggled. And they're in this race. And the Australians, look, going around the mark now, are struggling. So a really, really chaotic start. And it's sort of throwing everything upside down.
What a race. Race number 3, the black flag shown to Spain as the rest of the fleet sails on. The biggest surprise here, guys, the Americans now in front, overtaking Great Britain and Australia. Have they backed off? Have they let the foot off the gas pedal just a little bit, do you think?
No, I don't think so whatsoever. What we're seeing in race 3 is a full flip of race 2 with GBR and USA at the bottom of race 2. And here they are leading. This is a really tough spot on the boat. Let's listen to the comms, Paul Goodison.
Copy, we're going for 1 and in right. The stamp pressure looking better. It feels a little right shifted as well here.
There you go. So he's talking about the wind. He's talking about what angle the wind is hitting his boat. So Ian Jensen there saying we are not attack and cross at the moment. That means when they tack onto port, they lose all their rights within the racing rules of sailing, and Jimmy Spithill could cut him in half, just like he could have done to Phil Robertson. So even though the Americans are in second place on our picture, they're actually in the controlling position.
They have the advantage, no question about. The Americans who finished in second place in race number 1 drop back to 5th place in race 2.
There we go. So Paul Goodison saying we've got to match. So that means the British boat has got to wait until the Americans tack. So we're going to see a Simo tack. Who can do the best foiling manoeuvre? And in the background, the French are hanging in there. The French might have something to say about this. Can the Brits stay on the foil? Yes, they do. That's a lovely high-pressure tack. The French are coming in from right of picture. The French are going to have a big say in what happens here. They're both going to have to dip the French, but the Americans are slow. This is going to be a penalty. Oh, my goodness, you can't do that, Jimmy Spithill. And they could do the same to the Brits.
I don't know. Did the French have to avoid there or not? That's going to be a really close and tight one for the umpires.
And that was the question I had, guys. Who had the right of way? Was it the French the whole way?
The French had the right of way on both of those boats. The question is, did they have to change course to avoid those two boats? The umpires would be taking a close look at that.
Matt, would you have protested if you were Billy Besson?
Oh, you always protest. Even if you think maybe, well, you put it in the hands of the umpires. There's no harm in pressing the button. It'd be interesting to see what they say. They certainly would have pressed their button there.
Wow. If I was driving one of these boats, I'd be protesting everything. I'd be way too trigger happy, I think.
Great job by the US, though. If they do get away with this, they did a great job earlier on in driving down to stop the British from being able to tack. They knew what they were doing there. They would have been talking about it just as the Brits were talking about it just ahead of them.
That seemed like a water case of playing chicken, and Jimmy Spithill did not blink.
Well, they had to go for it. In that situation, you've got to go. Actually, if the duck they would have had to have done might have meant they wouldn't even laid the mark, and it could have been worse than taking the penalty, so they went for it.
Yours.
The first 3 boats jibing. Just quietly, the French are having a very good day. They're second overall after 2 races. They're sailing clean. Bravo.
You are looking at US SailGP, where just moments ago Jimmy Spithill forces the issue, does not blank, does not give way to France. No penalty assessed, so the Americans maintain their lead. Great Britain in second. And we take a look at this start. This is where the black flag came out. The bottom of the screen is Spain. And Freddie, they had looked like they had it on time and distance perfectly timed. And then all kinds of chaos.
So concentrate on the stars and stripes of the USA, the blue hole. Ignore the Danish. I don't believe that's where the infringement was. It's on Jimmy Spithill and Phil Robertson here. We saw Phil Robertson get shut out by Nathan Outridge in that same position in Taranto. This time, he doesn't get away with it.
Great starts by the Brits and the Americans too. It's all about being fast with about 5 seconds to go, and they did a really good job.
And shortly thereafter, the black flag is shown to Spain. They protested verbally. The word comes down, Spain off the course. So what was an 8-boat fleet is now 7. The third and final race of the day. Everyone racing for valuable points. Remember, 3 more races tomorrow. But to get into that last race, you have to be in the top 3.
Paul Goodison needs to convert this position, having had a very poor first 2 races. Him and the boys really need to convert this 1 or number 2 to jump them back into tomorrow's all-important Sunday racing.
And so does the USA. We know there's a little extra pressure on them because their crew has not changed. They are one of those 3 teams. So they need to have a good event here. They had a great first race, a slightly dodgy second one, but they're making amends with this one and looking really strong, which they need to do, as do the French and the Danish, also not changing crews for this third event here.
Well, Matt, currently if the USA lead this race and Australia finish in 7th, the Americans would actually be leading overnight. So a pretty good day, all in all.
Really good day. And the bounce back that we expected to see from the bad luck those guys have had.
A moment of pause there just moments ago where Jimmy Spithill asking Rome Kirby what if they hit something. He said just a little bit of seaweed, no underwater objects, no rocks, nothing. They're good to go. So the Americans maintain that lead 78 meters ahead of Great Britain, who've had struggles in the first 2 races. And there's France staying consistent, guys, another third.
400 meters to go until the last windward mark. And the platforms are absolutely locked in. When I'm talking about the platforms, I'm talking about the catamaran holes. They are nose down perfectly by 3 degrees. That's a fast mode. And they are not wobbling from one side to the other. And that's on the wing trimmer. So the wing trimmer and the pilots on board these two boats are flying them beautifully. It's not all about the driver. It's about everybody on these boats. And this is a big day for the pilots.
So the Americans the first to make that maneuver beautifully. They keep both holes out of the water. This is leg 5 of 7. So they'll head back down the course and then a short blast to the finish.
Oh, bad tack on the British boat behind him. There was a pretty key tack by the American team, actually, because they did have to get that tack in and cross over the Brits, which didn't happen for the Brits in the last race. But then we saw the British do a bad tack behind him, which will just help the Americans extend this lead. You can see that gap has just grown a little bit.
So coming into this gate number 5, Jimmy Spithill, USA, SailGP, looking to be in control. Rome Kirby calmly communicating with his driver.
That's interesting, that noise. You're right, Jimmy. That's Rome Kirby, the flight controller, asking Jimmy whether he's happy with where he's put the boat. The British boat coming in for their bear away. This is where the acceleration zone is. You can hear the whistle get more high-pitched.
Oh, boy. Another tight crossing. France has to give way. And the Kiwis go underneath, forcing France to dip. We'll see what that costs them in time and distance as the Kiwis and Arnaud Saraphagas moving up to 3rd place, France dropping back to 4th.
And the Kiwis probably the most affected by the Tokyo Olympic Games.
Yeah, New Zealand losing Pete Burley, Blair Tuke, Josh Jr., Andy Maloney, all stepping off the boat. But they will be back for Denmark.
Here's the lead boat, the United States of America. The grinders are low in the cockpit. That's a good indication that they're pretty chilled out. They're grinding on their knees. Why would they be doing that? It's about an aero game now in sailing. It's not about a hydro game, it's about an aero game. Low windage, much like a cyclist in the Tour de France.
Heard that moments ago. Jimmy Spithill not quite sure if they had another lap to go. Kind of like Tom Brady, not know if it was 4th down or not, but he told him, yeah, Jimmy, just one more and then we're in. And when you're that calm, guys, and when things are going that well, it's a joy.
I think that's a good example of him being in the zone, you know. Just sail the boat fast, leave everything else up to the boys in front of you.
That's right. It's all about where his focus is. And that's what a good crew does. That's the beauty of sailing the same guys over and over again, isn't it, Freddie? Is that you get to know what each other's roles are on the boat. He knows the other guys are looking at what the course is. He can just worry about where he's putting the boat, keeping the boat ripping fast in these beautiful foiling conditions. And on these very, very technical and hard to sail boats, the hardest race boats to sail in the world. But these guys are the best, and it helps when you trust the guys around you.
So maybe an opportunity lost for Great Britain, guys. They had 2 poor races to start things off. They had the lead, but now they are sitting in 2nd place. But no one can match the speed of Jimmy Spithill and USA SailGP. They are certainly the class of the fleet in this 3rd and final race. Big surprise for me, Australia, who had been dominating the first 2 races, 2 wins in a row, sitting now in 7th.
Yeah, as a neutral sitting here as a pundit, this is a great result for the overall series here at Plymouth. This is going to close it right up.
Even the British fans can appreciate the Yankees and what they're doing here in Plymouth as the win goes to the USA squad.
You got that yellow and black? Yeah, blue. You're just going to be out of the course. About that first back
so the Americans with the win in race number 3. Great Britain with a great performance on home waters will grab 2nd place in the all-important 7 points that go with it. That's a nice bounce back, isn't it?
That is a nice bounce back. They needed it. To be honest, if they finished in the bottom half of the fleet in race 3, it would have been a long shot to come back and get the podium race. They went from 6th to 1st in Bermuda. Hey, solid. Lee McMillan.
Yeah,
really
maybe
nice
the most consistent boat is France. 3, 3, and 3. So 3 podium finishes. A great job by Billy Basson and his squad getting it together, being consistent. Here comes New Zealand and their skipper Arnaud Saraphagas just holding off Nathan Outteridge, who in the last 2 days of practice looked almost unbeatable. They'll take 5th. The Danes will finish in 6th with Nikolai Sehested.
And something we've seen in SailGP so far this season, whenever Nathan Outteridge and the Japanese are deep, they've sailed through the fleet up to the front. Today, when they're at the back, they haven't been able to do that.
Well, I think that comes down to the course we've got today. It's a very, very even course if you don't get a good start. And here are the Australians coming up in last place. They were having such a good day until that point. Just didn't get the start right. They did a slightly different start, which is probably part of it. They weren't going fast at that sort of 4 seconds to go before the start, and got bogged down in that pack and couldn't even pick off one spot. So tough last race for them.
The third and final race of the day goes the way of Jimmy Spithill and USA SailGP. After all their problems hitting an object in Taranto, Italy, colliding with Japan at the first event in Bermuda and Hale, they turned it all around. It seemed like these 3 races just seemed almost perfect. Now, they weren't spot on in race 2, of course, finishing in 5th, but a second in race 1 and a top finish in race number 3 is just money as they prep for Sunday. And almost set to go here in Plymouth. Under 2 minutes to go until the start of the first race. Remember, 3 races today, then we'll have 3 more tomorrow, which includes the big final. So as we look out there, the conditions, Stevie, could not be much better as we are under 2 minutes until the start of this first race, which will tell us a lot.
I think we're going to learn an awful lot about the course. The crews are certainly going to learn a lot about the course, and there's been a few changes out there. We can see the New Zealand boat here, and Pete Burling and Blair Toot. Well, they've called in Joe Allais. We can see Joe at the back of the boat there. Olympic gold medalist from 2012, silver medalist in 2016, and well, there's no ignoring the fact she's one of the best female sailors on the planet, one of the best sailors on the planet, and she's come in as strategist, and I think it's just going to offer that bit of calmness, that bit of experience. We just haven't seen the results from New Zealand yet. Can Joe be the difference that we're looking for?
One minute to go now with New Zealand sitting on a 6th place in Bermuda and a 4th place in Chicago. This would be a nice time for them to turn things around here in Plymouth.
Tight tack in there underneath the French, and these racing manoeuvres are already underway here. The positioning in this final minute is absolutely crucial, and we can see as we look in on New Zealand, they found themselves some space. They'll be looking for clear wind, trying to find the shortest distance to Mark 1. Here we go, coming in on the helicopter above the fleet. There's the start line, middle of screen, Australia and USA towards the right hand, downwind end of the start line. They think that's the shortest course, but Canada away above the fleet. They found some space as the crews look to come in, lined up. Boats are foiling with 15 seconds to go. How's the timing? We're looking to see the crews come in towards the start line now. Great Britain, USA, it's going to be tight at the bottom of the line. It's all about being at speed. Australia and Slingsby are up to speed with 1 second to go, and Jimmy Spithill is high and fast across the start. What a start by Spithill, and look at Canada coming in at full pace. They have the fastest angle to Mark 1, and let's see who can lead.
This is the umpires. OCS penalty, Australia over the line early. No delayed starters.
So bad news for the Australians, but at mark number 1, it is Canada that came on the underneath with high speeds. The Americans, their best start all weekend long.
Great action there. Boat speed, boat speed, boat speed. The Canadians got the boat high and fast, and what a fantastic job. Back of the pack, it's Great Britain and New Zealand. They're going to have to find something special from here, as Canada will already be thinking about the next move to set themselves for gate 2.
And look at those speeds in excess of 60 kilometers an hour. The Canadians just shooting out there. It is France that turns away first. The Americans now getting some company on the right-hand side from Denmark.
Yellow line on the screen there, Todd. That's the ley line. That suggests that Canada have now put themselves in a position to sail straight down to gate 2. Oh, something's gone wrong, though. They're sailing right across those ladder lines. Big lull in the wind, not much wind. They can't sail where they want to. All the teams trying to turn less to keep themselves fast.
Today we've got a slightly longer course than normal. This means there's plenty of room for the faster teams to stretch their legs. It means a good start today is really important because the boats in the lead are going to be fast and getting a good amount of separation.
When you talk about fast, you got to talk about Canada right off the line. They came flying out of nowhere. Jimmy Spithill looked like he had the whole shot, and then comes Phil Robertson and the Canadians. They've looked so good so far this year. They've had a 3rd in Bermuda, a 2nd place in Chicago, looking for more here in Plymouth. So it's the Canadians out in front, Denmark now sitting in 2nd, and then a host of boats coming through, with France mixing up with the Americans in 3rd and 4th.
Americans have missed their jibe again, fallen off the foils. Disaster for America. It's going to be Canada in the lead. Denmark from absolutely nowhere, and then Contant de la Pierre. Has he got room to get around the outside? outside. It's tight. What a turnaround at the bottom of the leg, but another mistake for the US crew. This is disastrous.
They were sitting in second place. They now find themselves in seventh place and dead in the water, both holes in the water. Meanwhile, Great Britain's catapulted from sixth place all the way up into fifth, moving up now into fourth.
There we go, boat on the course. Unfortunately, that was the voice of Ben Ainsley asking for the TV boat to move out of the way. He's now found some space, though. He's up to speed, but at the moment it's Canada. The wind has shifted a long way to the left-hand side of our screen. Canada showing in second, but I think they're going to be in good shape as they start to head straight up the course with this wind shift. But it's Ainsley. He seems to be finding something a little special early on in the race.
Phil Robertson and the Canadians looking very good. France picking up a penalty there, so they'll have to drop back on position. But the Americans, almost from first to worst, they had the lead at mark number 1 or close there into Canada, and now they find themselves in dead last.
Simple mistakes make a huge difference, Todd. And that was a mistake. Crew error. Boat fell off the foils. Disaster.
Boats to watch here are the Kiwis, Spanish and Canada, who are all averaging around 50 kilometers an hour upwind on this course now.
So the Kiwis in a good position. They found the pressure on that side of the course. Canada and Spain, with Switzerland moving in. France, Great Britain has dropped back to 6th, then Denmark, Australia, and the Americans.
It's really gusty wind out there, Todd. We can see top of the screen the New Zealand crew. They're in more wind. If they're in more wind, there should be good news for them.
No, sir. Good breeze on the stick.
Nice tack there now. New Zealand have the right of way, but we can see Canada, the wind has shifted in their favour, so they were sailing almost straight up the ladder lines. Great angle for them. Potentially New Zealand are sailing faster, but Canada are sailing a shorter distance. Let's watch now, though. This cross will be crucial. New Zealand have the right of way. Clear cross, though. Canada hold the lead, and it's going to be tight as they approach gate 3.
So Switzerland also getting into the mix now. They sit in second place on distance as they go through the ladder lines. Canada, Switzerland, and New Zealand right now, your top 3. This is race number 1, and this is just leg 3.
Here we've got the live speeds of our 3 top boats at the moment. You can see Canada and New Zealand are neck and neck for speed-wise, both around 54 kilometers an hour.
Looks pretty good on board the Canadian boat at the moment. They've lined themselves up well, done a pretty nice job of sailing the wind shifts. I wouldn't have said they're the fastest boat, but they've sailed the shortest distance up this course. They're going to hold on to the lead. Going to be a left turn for them. Where are New Zealand? Here they come. Will New Zealand choose to turn one more time? Can they fit inside the French? French have the right of way. It's going to be tight as they come in here.
The near gate, one of the 2 rounding gates, renamed and branded near in recognition of SailGP's new partner. As the Canadians take that lead, New Zealand now in second with France in third.
Oh, it was really tight at the top there, Todd. Great move by Quentin de la Pierre, though, taking this French boat up to second. Great Britain and Ben Ainsley looks like he's going to be squeezed out by the Swiss team. It's tight in the pack, no room to breathe. Any little mistake's going to have a huge consequence at this stage of the race.
No host honors given to Ben Ainsley and Great Britain as the Swiss squeeze in there. So Great Britain stays in 5th. Switzerland holds on to 4th. New Zealand has dropped to 3rd, but it is still Canada. And look at the distance they're putting over France. Look at this, over 200 meters in the lead. And Stevie, you got to go back to that start. Somehow Phil Robertson found the speed, and just like a bullet out of a gun with Chris Draper.
Nice and chill from here, guys. Really good shape.
Wing trimmer from Chris Draper on board the Canadian boat there. Yeah, nice and chilled from here. Well, they are in really good shape, that's right. And you're quite right, Todd. Phil Robertson on race day at the starts just seems to come out of the blocks with so much aggression, so fast. And here we go. Good manoeuvres as well on board the Canadian boat. It's going to be tight here, though. Look, Canada coming in. Now, they're on port tack. The right of way is with the New Zealand boat, who are to the right of our screen. It will be close at the bottom.
And this is why Canada are in the lead. They're 51.5 kilometers an hour faster on that previous leg, and only 2 maneuvers.
And Canada's done enough to get past New Zealand without having an incident.
It's really, really tight here, Todd. It's going to be interesting to see what they want at the bottom. Canada set up for one more turn. They're looking for a right turn. Now, New Zealand has the right of way in this situation. New Zealand can turn inside, but it would be a lot of manoeuvres. I don't know that Pete Burling's going to want to do that. Phil Robertson judges it well, squeezes around the outside, but New Zealand are right on their tail.
So a match race at the top through gate number 4 on to leg number 5. Canada and New Zealand out there. France is having a great showing here in race number 1. Remember, this is the first race of 3 today, but it's all about getting the points.
Oh, Todd, sorry to interrupt, but New Zealand, that's short. What a move by Peter Burling there. He's making it too complicated. They did not need to do that. Tack penalty, right of way with France.
This is the umpires. Penalty New Zealand, relative France. Penalty New Zealand, relative France.
Oh, you gotta wonder what they were thinking on board that Kiwi boat, because they had everything looking so good.
They just rushed it, Todd. That was too many manoeuvres in too short a space of time there. We see on board in the bottom right-hand corner there, New Zealand, he tried to do a turn at the bottom mark, straight into another turn out of the upwind leg, and just got the boat slow, gave the opportunity to De La Pierre, and he's going to have to drop back behind the French to clear that penalty. He's big mistake by Burling there. Too rushed.
So he's going to go from first to third as he will drop behind Canada and France, who holds down third place right now. Pete Burling yet to burn that penalty. So on paper, it is Canada in the lead, just barely ahead of France. And Stevie, coming into this first race, if I'd have told you Canada and France would be out in front, battling away and pulling away from everyone else, would you be surprised?
Certainly not be surprised with the performance of the Canadians. And French, to be fair, they've looked really good, just not had the consistency. Right now, Burling must drop behind the French.
And here's the numbers. Look at France, 100% fly time. That's not something we often see from the French. They seem to be pulling it together, closing the gap with the Canadians as well, who are still dominating speed-wise.
This is leg 5 of 7 in race number 1. 2 more races still to go. Great speed, perfect conditions here in the beautiful Plymouth Sound.
Really tight. This is a real test of speed here. The French boat looks fast. De La Pierre, he can set up to tack when he wants to, and Canada must keep clear. It's going to be one more manoeuvre before this top gate, and it's a drag race.
Canada the closest to us. France on the outside. This is going to be key, Stevie, on this next leg, that they don't make any mistakes.
There's no margin for error now, Todd. Foiling turn there from the Canadian boat. Nice job. The crew runs across the boat. French, slower to tack. They're right on that yellow ley line. No more manoeuvres required for the French, but I think the Canadians can get there cleanly as well, and it's going to then set the Canadians up very well. Just 2 more legs to go after this turning mark, Todd, and it's going to only be a couple of minutes. I think it might be too late for the French, but only one mistake away.
All about gaining as many points as possible in these first 3 races, and then tomorrow it's only the top 3 boats that'll make it into the final. So as they come into gate number 5, it is Canada in the lead, France in second, New Zealand in third, Switzerland moving up to 4th, and Great Britain, the host nation, sits in 5th.
Split tack at the top. I'm surprised the French have done that. That's an aggressive move at this point in the race. Trying to split away, trying to find more wind, but is that the right call? Opens the door, and it's tight behind. Great Britain, Switzerland, the battle for 4th and 5th is really tight. Ainsley on a charge, and he's found a way past the Swiss.
So Ainsley will go to the other side of the course, and Switzerland looks like they're going to follow them as well. So Great Britain picks up a position ahead of the Swiss and Sebastian Schneider. So it's 4 and 5 now for Great Britain and Switzerland. So leg number 6, so it is down here, and then the long reach to the finish line. They'll go through that last gate, Stevie, take a left, and then it's the shot straight over to the hoe.
Should be pretty easy here for the Canadians. They just need to get this next turn correct. One more manoeuvre. We're going to look for Chris Draper and Isabelle Bertard at the back there to set up. There they go. They're running across the boat. This is the cue for their last manoeuvre. Can they execute it well? Top of screen, France, 70 kilometres an hour nearly. France has the right of way. This could be a great move by De La Pierre. Is he ahead? It's going to be tight when the 2 boats come together.
It's been an impressive performance by Canada here, but you have to give it to the French and the Kiwis, who didn't have the best start, made it to Mark 1, 4th and 7th respectively, and have moved up into the top 3.
Here we go, big moment coming here. Let's watch this. France has the right of way. Does Phil Robertson think he can get ahead? No, he doesn't. That's the voice of Phil Robertson coming up to dip behind. He must keep clear. Now, are they lined up for the next gate? France sets up for a turn. It's going to be really tight at the bottom. Has Robertson judged this correctly?
So the Canadians have dropped back to 2nd momentarily, but do they make up for it? Here we go.
He's got to squeeze down to the gate.
Oh, it's going to be close.
Expect 2 turns here from the Canadians. France must keep clear. France has to give him room. There goes De La Pierre. Late reactions. This opens the door for Burling. New Zealand will have an opportunity here. Look at the speed. Going nearly 3 times the speed on board New Zealand. It's going to be a sprint across to the finish.
How quick can they get back up on the foils? Canada looks like they're there. Their speed now approaching 50 kilometers an hour, but the Kiwis are already at 60.
What a moment. My favourite now, surely Canada. They should be able to sail fast from here, but De La Pierre, he had to see that coming. He opened the door for New Zealand, and Burling, well, he's made a mistake earlier in the race, but he makes up for it here, and it's now a sprint to the fan. Look at the fans on the shore there.
1 boat length separates them in race number 1, and as they come to the line, it will be the Canadians that take the win here in Plymouth as New Zealand comes from 3rd to grab 2nd.
Oh, what a finish there. What a finish. That was so tight. And it's Ben Ainsley back up to 4th. De La Pierre holds on to 3rd. Ainsley from nowhere into 4th. What a finish. One mistake at the end, Todd, and it's all opens up.
It all came down to that last turn, and France had to give way as Switzerland will come into 5th place. Good result for them to start things off. Australia with a really close to a disastrous start for them. Near the back of the pack, they've salvaged something as they get 6th, and Spain will come in to 7th place, which leaves Denmark and the USA still out on the water. For Jimmy Spithill, this is going to be a head scratcher because they had such a great start, the best we've seen from them all weekend long, and they will take dead last in 9th.
Pretty tight action there, Todd, and we can see in these gusty, changeable winds, it's a really open race course and there's a lot happening.
Over 70 kilometers an hour as the Americans come through to wrap up race number 1. It is official now with Canada, New Zealand, and France going 1, 2, and 3 to open things up here at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix in Plymouth in Britain's Ocean City, the 3rd event, and the debrief begins for the Americans. 90 seconds to go. You like to see that, Freddie. A little bit of breeze coming across those boats. The flags fluttering in the wind, and that's good news for the SailGP, the world's greatest sailors, as they get ready for race number 5. 1:15 to go before the start of race number 5. This will be the race to determine who the top 3 boats will be to race off in the final race of the day. The Americans look good. They've got great position right now, but there's still a lot of points out there. 8 points to the winner of the race.
And it looks a little bit softer on the race course. Todd, we're on board with the Australians here. Looks a little bit softer on the race course. It looked quite patchy. With 53 seconds to go to the start, again, nobody's pushing the top of the line. Everybody's learnt their lessons there. 46 seconds to go on board with the Australians. We know that they are one of the boats under threat for not making the top 3. The boats are very close to the line. I wonder if they're aware of the points. I'm sure they are. The abacuses will be clicking away in the coach boats. The Americans are very close indeed to the start line, as are the Danes. The Japanese have got good speed, but Australia's blocking them coming in with 23 seconds to go. The British are lining up at the bottom. Everybody's being fairly cautious here, which means I'd expect fairly early trigger pulls. Japanese are still trying to find that spot. How's he going to get through there? So close, and he does. 8 seconds to go.
So with 5 seconds at the line, wait for the line to go white, and it does, so everyone's clear. Japan, did they do it right? No penalty, going the way of the Japanese.
This is the umpires, penalty Japan, relative Australia, relative Australia.
That's an early start penalty for the Japanese. That means when the gun went, they are over the line. And I tell you what, guys, Japanese have got to get behind Australia. I tell you what, guys, it is lighter. We called it before the start, and these boats are struggling to foil, apart from France and Great Britain, who have popped and are leading away. This is massive news for France. They are one of the boats defending that top 3 spot.
Denmark and New Zealand had to bear away at the start as to not get a penalty. Did it cost them massively? Yes, it did. The U.S. in 3rd place, but they've got to be happy with that. They stayed away from trouble, avoided a penalty, and now they just need to sail a clean race.
The Union Jacks will be waving on the shoreline. I've heard that there's about 8,000 to 10,000 people on the shoreline today, all supporting the British team. Will they get rewarded in race 5 for their loyal support?
And the really significant thing here, guys, is if it finishes just as we see now, it's a long way to go, obviously, but it's very comfortable for the French and the American team. That would put them in the final. So keep your eyes on Japan and Australia. There isn't too many points between those guys. There's only 3 points between them. Japan has to get behind them right now, but look for splits, look for some match racing between those two teams. The Australians will know all about that.
And how great would this be for the home fans here in Plymouth to see Great Britain SailGP come away with a victory?
Japan penalty clear.
Finally, about 45 to a minute after the start, the Japanese have cleared their penalty on Australia, as you can see, puts them back in 6th place. That's not what they want to back up their race win with. Japan have got to go and try and get in the front 2 to get in the final 3 shootout. On board with Phil Robertson as he jibes. It is much lighter here. I believe the flight controllers are really struggling to keep the boats in the air. Phil Robertson currently in 4th place. Settling down, he has also got a lot to do, the overall season leader, to get into the final in Plymouth.
Paul Goodison, Olympic gold medalist, taking over for Ben Ainsley. For this race, Ben will be back for Denmark.
So the British are doing the same as the Japanese did in race 1 here, Todd. Looks to me like they're going to chuck a jibe in and come over to the left-hand side of the course. That's where the Japanese made all the gains to go from 3rd to 1st in the first race. And the Brits are copying that manoeuvre as they round up. Really nice round up by the British there. Lovely coordination between the 3 boys at the back of the boat, with the grinders working hard to trim that wing sheet on. Massive news for the French. This is them defending their 3rd place.
Yesterday, the French were the most consistent, 3, 3, and 3 in all 3 races, finishing on the podium in top 3. But they need some points here to make sure they're not overtaken by the Spanish and or the Japanese.
That was the voice of Lee McMillan saying left shift on the Brits, which in layman's terms means the left-hand side of the course is the right way to go.
Hold over at Sail, CJ. Let's go early. Let's take a bit of height here before attack.
Spanish round in 4th place. Bounced back yesterday from his red card. He got a 4th in the first race, 4th today. It's not enough.
And this is Australia, Japan just behind them. Tom Slingsby wondering where Nathan Outridge is.
So that's a bit of a battle for 3rd place, but the Japanese, not only have they got to get past Australia, they've got to sail past most of the fleet. And I tell you what, they're not going to be doing it by sailing at 23 kilometers an hour off the foil.
Significantly there, you see the Australians tack straight away. They saw the Japanese going over towards that right-hand side of the race course. They've tacked over from the bottom gate, did that JK manoeuvre. There we go, look at the velocity from the 2 different boats on the split sides of the course here coming from the Oracle Cloud. You can see there's 16 knots over where the British are on the right-hand side, and less than 15. So there is breeze gradients, but I don't think the Australians are going to let that Japanese team get a single split for the rest of this race.
So comms off both boats there. Billy Besson saying they have a huge right, and Ian Jensen, the throttle man, the wing controller on board the British boat, saying build our speed before this tack. And this is a crucial tack, actually. It is softer on the race course. We're under 15 kilometers an hour. Can they stick the tack? If they do, they really will put the pressure on the British. The British tack just in front of them. The British definitely touch down. I think the French do too, so it's all square. Pressure from the French onto the British.
Yeah, I got it.
That is some proper foiling right there. Paul Goodison, as we said, taken over for Ben Ainsley for the last 2 races. Ben coming back in Denmark. Goodison would love to finish off with a win here in race number 5.
Neil Hunter and Richard Mason winding their handles at the front of the boat. Neil Hunter in particular, when he gets going on those handles, can produce 2,000 watts with his arms. But I tell you, in 15 knots of wind, he might not need to. But this is a big moment for the grinders. The wing sheet eases. The wing is now at maximum power, and you can see them spinning their arms round and round, bring that wing back on, power up, and that takes them to 48 kilometers an hour versus the French at 32. A little extension down the race ladder for the British.
Wow, you can see how the fleet is all spread out. So Great Britain has the lead, France in second, Spain third, the USA holding steady in fourth place right now. Not in so much of a hurry to garner points because they are sitting first overall.
Significantly, gentlemen, as things stand at the moment, the Japanese are struggling. Australia would take third place with 24 points and Japan would only have 19. However, GBR, currently winning this race, would be on 22 points. So if the Australians slip back 2 places, that would put the British into the final on home waters. So the Australians are match racing the Japanese, but they do have to be a little bit careful. They cannot afford to lose 2 more places.
And it is close in that mid-fleet. That is very, very possible from what I can see here. As the Spanish go round in third place, it's getting much lighter. They are falling off the foil more and more and more.
Okay, nice. Boundary drive here, okay?
That could be a bit of a lifeline for the Australians. We're just talking about them being under pressure, and they've just sailed underneath the Americans, popped on the foil underneath the Americans, turned onto the downwind. And Tom Slingsby talking about trying to build the boat speed, and they've jumped up into fourth place.
So people watching at home, Freddie, why wasn't that a penalty on the Australians on the Americans?
I don't believe there was any contact. The Australians at that moment were just going too fast. They didn't need to engage with the Americans, and they were just happy to fly right by.
Let's go right turn now. Right turn. Okay, fine.
Okay, that's the voice of Lee Macmillan on board the French. Acting as the French tactician, he's talking about going right turn into the bottom. And we see them jibe to do that. They are playing a simple game. If they were going for a race win, they might have tried to split away from the British, but we know they are super happy with second place. They finished third in Bermuda. They didn't have a blinder in Italy, but could this be the second time they've made the final race out of 3 events? Not many people would have called that at the beginning of SailGP Season 2.
Yeah, no question about that. Great Britain would be a shock if they made it into the final after yesterday's performance, but that would be huge for the fans here in Plymouth to get the home team into that final event. Only the top 3 moving on. Great Britain right now leads it. France in second. There's Spain in third. The USA now dropping back to 6th place. But remember, they're first place overall, so points not as much as a premium for them.
And Great Britain and France have gone. By looking at that overhead, you can see the distance between France and Spain is massive. So I do not expect to see France moving back in this fleet. That will lock in their place in the final 3 shootout in race 6.
Nikolai Sejested, the helmsman for Denmark. They could really be spoilers if they can move ahead of Spain and even possibly get into a mix with France, taking valuable points away.
And it's Denmark that are going to be the first boat that go to the opposite gate. You heard the conversation between Tom Johnson and Nicholas Sejested. They were looking around, and they're pretty happy to go to the right-hand side of the course. We haven't really seen that working so far, halfway through race 2.
Have a look in the bottom left-hand corner there. That is the as it stands points if this race finishes as it is, with only 3 more legs to go. It'll be those top 3 boats as they stand into the final.
That's as it stands right now.
As it stands right now. If the Australians don't lose 3 places, that is the key right now. The Brits will only overtake them if the Australians drop back by those 3 places.
So what's your mindset if you're Tom Slingsby, Matt? Are you defending the boats behind you, or are you trying to pick off the Spanish and try and get another little buffer to the boats behind you?
I think it all depends on how close those boats are. I think you still have to sail fairly conservatively. You don't want to start dropping back. They're in a happy place right now. They're 5th on the race course. It can get a little dangerous if you get sucked back into the pack. They don't need to take any places. They've got a buffer. So really just keep it very simple. Just keep it smooth, and they should be fine to get into this final with the American team and the French.
So Great Britain having their best showing of this event here at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix. They save it for race number 5 as they get set to make the turn at gate number 5.
1, here we go.
Look at the speed in kilometres an hour shoot up there as they go onto the bearaway, onto the final downwind. As things stand, unfortunately for British...
This is the umpires. Penalty Spain versus Australia.
We're hearing
penalty
there.
clear. Penalty clear.
That means Australia are going to step one step up, and they do. As things stand, this is a great win for Great Britain, but they need to see Australia drop to the back of the fleet.
The Americans, but we'll be beyond them, no problem. It's an easy one of them.
So they're already talking about the finish here. As Great Britain saying it's an easy one and in, as the rest of the fleet tries to reel them in. For some of the teams, as you pointed out, Freddie, they're defensive. They know their position. They've obviously been in touch with someone with a calculator saying, just hold on, do not give up any more positions.
That's the voice of Paul Goodison, the interim helmsman, standing in for Ben Ainsley. We know in these last two events, Ben Ainsley is going to be back at our next event in Aarhus in Denmark. And this is a nice way for Paul Goodison to sign out of SailGP. He's going to leave a little mark here. And the Brits do sail well on the Sundays. We know that. They bounce back on the Sunday in Bermuda to go from 6th to 1st. Not quite enough this time.
Big battle right now with Australia trying to maintain that 5th position as they are coming up close on 3rd place in Denmark. Nikolai Sehested and Denmark SailGP presented by Rockwell. And look at this crossing as Phil Robertson once again into the mix, and he's going to drop down off at foils and pretty much just hits the E-brake right in front of the Australians.
And the Australians, again, we saw it on the last windward mark. They foiled right underneath the USA and did the slingshot onto the final downwind. They've done the same maneuver against the Spanish. They didn't look to engage the Spanish. They were just using their speed in the light airs to get onto the final sprint.
There comes the USA, currently sitting in 6th place. Japan and New Zealand bringing up the rear. That's bad news for Japan SailGP fans and Nathan Outridge. They needed a much better performance than 7th and the points that go with it.
Yeah, rudder compensator's not quite tuned for these elevators, though.
Well, there's some technical chat coming off Luke Parkinson. He's coming into his final race. Ian Jensen says that's more like it. Let's listen in.
And much to the delight of the fans here in Plymouth, Great Britain SailGP gets the win in race 5.
Everything happens nicely behind us. Yeah.
There, Ian Jensen, the wing trimmer, saying if everything happens nicely behind us, we stand a chance. Paul Goodison said, really nice day today. They needed a bounce back, but they need to see Australia step down the leaderboard if they're going to make the final 3.
This is the umpires. Penalty New Zealand relative Japan. Penalty New Zealand relative Japan.
So the Kiwis will have to drop behind
New Zealand
Japan.
were looking for you to get behind Japan. Get behind Japan.
Okay, H1.
And France finishing in 2nd place. So a good showing from Billy Besson, very consistent throughout the weekend, and it looks like they have punched their ticket into the final.
100% Todd, I can confirm that puts France in the top 3 and into the final in the last race today.
And how about this once again? Look at this, look how close it is.
That's Australia. Little overtake there on the Spanish. That was to move from 5th to 4th. Again, giving them a little buffer about dropping out of the top 3. They love not engaging at that top mark. They love keeping their speed and using it onto the downwind.
Well, disappointing for the Danes this weekend. They showed some signs of consistency, certainly in practice on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but it's what you do on Saturday and Championship Sunday that counts. And now the Danes get ready as they will host SailGP in the next event. Nikolai Sehested, Denmark SailGP, presented by Rockwell, will have a few weeks to get things ready.
And a nice step up in performance by Sehested and his crew here. They're getting better at every event they go to, and they'll want to be hitting the straps when they get to their home event, and they're happy on board.
Top 3 finish for the Danes. Australia doing what they had to do here in race number 4. It was touch and go there at the start, but Slingsby and company getting it done in 4th.
And Slingsby said yesterday he thinks his Achilles heel is light wind sailing, so he will be very happy. He's a confident sailor. He must be confident.
Spain will come in 5th place, but I'll tell you what, that black flag yesterday took them out of the running because no points available for them as they had to sit that one out after just the first leg.
We'll round up in 10.
The Australians crossing there and confirming their place in the final. And as we see Jimmy Spithill and his American crew coming across the finish line too, that also confirms their place. So we have our top 3 for the final. We have USA, they finished with 27 points. France were just behind them with 26, and Australia on 25. Those are our 3 finalists, gentlemen. Exciting race coming up.
Nice work by Matt with a calculator, getting that math done quickly. So for those 3 boats, another race as Arno Serafagis filling in for Pete Burling and Blair Tuke brings their boat in. Too many penalties for the Kiwis and just did not seem to find the rhythm here on Sunday in races 4 and 5.
Stop here. sorry for the start. Alright, mate.
Sarafagis there saying sorry for the start. They can't have got a blinder, and we know you've got to get off the line well in these light airs if you're going to stand a chance of picking up 8 points for the win.
But race number 5 goes the way of the host nation. Great Britain SailGP with Paul Goodison at the helm gets the win in front of the fans here in Plymouth. So final preparations being made now as we get set for race number 2, the second race of 3 on the day, under 2 minutes to go. And Stevie, there's not a whole lot of time to decompress or to evaluate what you did right or wrong, because you're going to get right back at it. But for the Canadians, how do you match what you did in race number 1?
I think stick to the routine. A lot of these crews, any high-class team really, it's about routine, it's about consistency of performance. They'll know their timing. 1 minute 38 seconds to go. We think they're in a kind of casual cruise eating their sandwiches. They're not. They're very much into their timing for the pre-start. Now we can see in the middle left of our screen, Canada, they're on their run. I'm sure they'll know our timing worked well last time, our strategy worked well last time, we executed it. Let's just go out and do that again. We've not got to do anything special, but do the same again. Unfortunately, everyone else has learned what to do as well.
All the data is shared here at SailGP, and with a minute 11 to go until the start of race number 2, how quickly can you learn? And for the Americans and Jimmy Spithill, they're certainly going to want to avoid that area that Lisa Darmanin talked about, where there is no wind. 1 minute to the start of race number 2. Reminder, the last race was won by Canada. New Zealand finished in second. France finished in third.
Here we go, lining up 50 seconds to go. Spanish out the back. We've got some news from the first race. There was a collision off the screen between Great Britain and Spain will be awarded 4 penalty points at the end of this race. So that's a real setback to the Spanish. Can't have any collisions out there. If you cause it, you're going to get a problem and get in trouble with it. Now, 30 seconds to go. Ainsley, top right-hand side of screen on the British boat, spins in late. New Zealand, bottom of our screen. They're in that same position as the Canadians were last time, but they're all a lot closer to the line here. They're very, very close to the line. Is there going to be room in here? Jimmy Spithill, brilliant start in race 1. Good control. And Phil Robertson, big change of plan. Dives down low, late at the bottom end of the line. It's all about timing now. When the line turns white, the race begins. Watching the screen closely. Here comes Burling on New Zealand. How's your timing? White line means go, and it's good to go. Fast angle here. New Zealand should be fast in from here. Watch the speeds at the top of the mast. Once again, Canada and Phil Robertson poking out down the line, but it's now a sprint to Mark 1.
Not only with a new crew member in Joe Allais, but a new sponsor is Alvaria. Welcome to SailGP, and it is Pete Burling and the Kiwis off to a great start here in race number 2. Canada's there as well, and the Americans once again in good position at mark number 1. Can they make it pay off this time?
Brilliant work by Phil Robertson again. Last minute change of plan, ended up at completely the other end of the start line, but back of the fleet again. Ben Ainsley struggling with his starting today. They need a rethink as they set up for the first manoeuvre on the boundary.
France, Australia, Switzerland, and Spain, the first to turn away. Canada has the lead. New Zealand in second. The Americans go wide.
Oh, Todd, that's a penalty on both those boats for the boundary. USA, another unforced error. They need to drop back 20 metres relative to the other boats. That's going to be so costly for America. Let's see if it can be salvaged by Burling. Look at Australia, top of speed. They found a gust of wind. Speed on the top of the mast, 70 kilometres an hour. From 7th up to 3rd, potentially. Even 2nd for Australia. Slingsby, wow, look at the boat speed on the Australian. That's the voice of Phil Robertson. He wants a left turn. Perfectly set for the left turn, though, is Slingsby. It's going to be tight as they come in here. How have the Australians done that? Listening to Phil Robertson here, talking about his plan. Has to cede way to the Australians. Burling splits the course, and we expect an early tack from the Canadians and Phil Robertson. Who's made the right choice, Burling or Slingsby?
Ooh, once again, the Americans get very high out of the water, as do the Swiss. And look at the Swiss heeling that over, almost putting it on its side.
It's busy at the bottom of the course, and when you rush these manoeuvres, Todd, we can see a lot of the boats, Spain and Switzerland, both fell off the foils. If you fall off the foils, you're slow. Not off the foils, New Zealand, look at the speed. 52 kilometres an hour, heading upwind. It's going to be looking good for them.
So it's Australia in the lead, Canada in second, New Zealand in third, then it's France in fourth, Denmark. The USA has moved up to sixth place. Tough going there on board New Zealand as Pete Burling spins it around, then they make the changeover. So Australia out in front, Canada just off to their left, and here comes the Kiwis in fourth place with France in the mix again.
And here we've got the live speeds in kilometers an hour, miles per hour, and for the sailors, we've got knots as well. So here you can see Australia dominating once again speed-wise, 57 kilometers an hour, Canadians 56.
If we look at your screen here, you can see the top of the screen, the water, the screen looks darker. Well, that's a gust of wind. The Australians have found that gust of wind. If you've got more wind, you're just able to sail the boat faster, and it's about putting that together. Last race, it was all about staying away from Drake's Island. Slingsby went straight to it that time. Great gain.
And Stevie, you talked about the collision that we saw, did not see off camera, excuse me, Spain and Great Britain getting together, the 4 points for the damage. Now, that will not affect today, but it will be in the overall, so that's something to keep an eye on as it gets closer going away.
That points tally will be added to them as the series progresses, yes, so big error, big costly mistake for them. But Tom Slingsby and his Australian crew, well, he's found an awesome little route up this leg, keeping the boat fast, and there, Delapierre, he has the right of way. Canada and Phil Robertson, they look like they're behind anyway, but he's going to have to stay behind. The French are on fire so far.
Quentin Delapierre, the skipper of the French squad. Remember, they finished in third place in the last race. You're trying to get as many top places so that you can be in the big final. That's coming up tomorrow, the last race of the day. Only the top 3 boats will make it in there, and there you can do some real damage to move your way up the overall standings, which are right now being dominated by Australia, who've won the first 2 events.
Slingsby there, he's talking about a huge righty, saying the wind has turned to the right, so that means it's turning him away from the mark. But New Zealand, top of screen, that's good news for them. New Zealand almost sailing directly up the ladder lines. Big gain coming for Burling.
So there's the turn for the Australians. They maintain first place. New Zealand now moves into second, France in third. Canada's dropped back to fourth, and here comes the Americans. Jimmy Spithill with a nice recovery now moving up to fifth.
Here we go. Tight at the top. Australia, they were brilliant at the bottom of the leg. Peter Burling, brilliant at the top of the leg. It's going to be tight here. The French, Jimmy Spithill on the inside. He has the right of way, but he's very, very slow. Can he sneak round? I think he's got himself in the race. But look, it's tight between Canada and France.
Australia, New Zealand, France, and Canada, your top 4 as they make their way through gate 3.
Todd, look at the left-hand side of the screen there. 9th place GBR. That's not what the fans on Plymouth Hoe are going to want to see. Ainsley needs to find something, and he needs to find something quick. We're halfway through race 2 here. There's not a lot of opportunity left.
Well, you can't win the regatta on day number 1, but we've seen it before, Steve. You can certainly throw away your chances of getting to the big final on day number 1. And it seems like in the past you've been able to have one bad race, maybe a 7th, 8th, or a 9th, but then you have to come back with some top 3 finishes, all the others.
Yeah, I mean, the Australians have shown us that.
The Australians dominating still with the fastest boat speed, but the Kiwis are closing that gap by doing less maneuvers. That's crucial out on the water because it makes you sail less distance.
Oh, there we go, crowds on the shore. They're great to see. They won't like seeing Ben Ainsley at the back of the fleet and the British crew. Maybe we need a big cheer from the crowds on the Hoe to help him down this next leg. But yeah, Burling, well, he overcomplicated race 1. If he's minimising manoeuvres, that tells me he's learnt his lesson, keeping it a bit simpler.
And this may be one of the greatest venues to watch this kind of racing because the Plymouth Sound is spectacular and they are stretched all the way around. So into gate number 4, it is still the 2-time defending champions, Tom Slingsby in Australia out in front. The Kiwis sitting in second place with their new team member and new sponsor. And now we've got a tight crossing as France comes into view and looks like they're going to have to force the Canadians to dip behind.
They haven't. Jimmy Spithill, here we go. The Americans up to speed. They're back in the race. And it just shows how changeable it was. Last race, Lisa was telling us everyone wanted to turn right, sail away from Drake's Island. This rate, they're all... Oh, no! Look at it! too high, lost control of the boat. What a moment. Jimmy Spithill swings round inside. This is going to be disastrous. Boat's full of water. They need to drain the water to build the speed to be able to foil again. This is going to be hugely costly for the Canadians. Top of screen, no mistakes from Australia and New Zealand, and they're in a match race to the finish.
And you were just saying how things can turn on a dime here. So the team that won the first race puts the nose in and fills it up with water, and look at them. They are dropping back, and they are now in dead last. Let's look at this again. What happened, Stevie?
Here we go. We're on board. We can see here we're crossing the boat for the roundup. It's the exchange between Phil Robertson and Billy Gooderham of the flight control. They get too high. These foils are designed to be in the water, not out the water. Flew out of the air, and we see Jimmy Spithill, not one to miss an opportunity. Drives past.
So the Americans now up to fourth. It's Australia, New Zealand running away with it, with France still in the distance in third place.
Well, they're doing a great job. Look on the screen now. I think Ben Ainslie and Great Britain, they're up to fifth. Maybe the crowd on the Hoe have cheered them through. Who knows? But yes, brilliant work by these first two boats. They're gone down the road here. It's going to be a match race to the finish for this race, but it's the French in third place again. Contant de la Pierre seems to have found out the formula for the sound right now. Consistency's key, and they're doing a great job on the French boat right now.
This is like 5 of 7. You can see just how close they are. Canada sitting in dead last. The winners of race number 1, they will go through the next gate, then down, then the left-hand turn to the finish line, and the race will be over.
How costly is that one little mistake?
So Phil Robertson and the Canadians were sitting, what, in second place on that, and now they find themselves in ninth. And this late in the race, Stevie, I think they'll be lucky if they can get in the top 7.
Absolutely. Here we go. Australia, that yellow ley line. Look at France. We've sailed another great upwind leg here. The French on the ley line in third.
Australia, New Zealand, France, Denmark in fourth. Great Britain now up to 5th place. The hometown team, the Americans, dropping back to 6th.
We're seeing some impressive speeds here from France and Denmark, closing that gap. 100% fly time for France. Denmark slightly less. You know, we expect that 100% fly time from the Aussies. They're consistent.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. New Zealand in second. Ainslie has a chance to take the Danish off the course. I'm sure he'll make the most of that. Could see Great Britain up to 4th here. And Burling in second. Could be 2 seconds here. There you go, Ainslie. He's pushed Denmark all the way off the course. Now he has the right of way for this turn. He's very, very slow on the British boat. Great tactical sailing by Ainslie from last to 4th in 1 lap.
See them trying to build the pressure back up so they can get back up on the foils, but they do take the position away from Denmark. So Great Britain from 9th to 4th place. It's still Australia, New Zealand out in front, separated by a mere 100 meters right now. So as you said, Stevie, it's a match race between those two great sailing nations. You've got the 2-time defending champions and Tom Slingsby in Australia, and then you have the man that's won the America's Cup the last 2 times right off his left-hand side.
There you go, centre of screen. That's Jason Waterhouse flying the boat there, trying to push things hard down here. The higher you can get the boat out of the water, the faster you go, and look at the speed of the Australian boat.
So impressive, going from 7th at Mark 1 to 1st. Huge gains by them. Same for the Kiwis.
Yep.
Not the greatest, well, they had a good start, but it wasn't the best. And
they've been consistent, and then France is another team that's moved up from 6th to 3rd. So there you go, Australia, New Zealand, France, Denmark, Great Britain, USA now in 6th, Switzerland in 7th, Spain in 8th, and then Canada after that incident, which may be the move or unmove of the match. We'll focus on that momentarily. They sit in 9th place. So it's a left-hand turn, and now it's a glory run as Australia will make the sprint down to the finish line.
Wow, and there you go. We can see flight wing trimmer there, Kyle Langford. It's his birthday. Could be a birthday bullet for Langford here in front of the crowds. He'll love that. The crowds will love that, I'm sure. Maybe we can sing him happy birthday as he comes into the finish there for race 2, and Australia, great victory. 2 second places for New Zealand, though. We've criticised them for lacking consistency. They've brought in Joe Allais on the back, 2-time Olympic medalist. Seems to be a bit of consistency out there, Todd.
So the Aussies claim race number 2 with the Kiwis in 2nd. France with a well-earned 3rd place, their 2nd of the day.
Ainslie, that's a good move by the British boat. They're up to 4th. Popular move with the fans, a really good comeback for the British boat. Could have been a disastrous race here, but a 4th place finish, that's a counter, and everyone on the Hoe seems to be enjoying that.
Denmark will finish in 5th.
I'm trying to talk to Parker as well. Yeah, okay, yeah. Just like...
And the Americans will take 6, 1 spot ahead of the Swiss.
You're gonna go wide. Turning, 2, 1.
Results going to be pretty tight in the pack, but I think that mistake by the Canadians at the bottom of the course, let's see how much they come to rue that when we get to the end of the day, because points are going to be so tight in this shifty weather, you just can't afford mistakes, and well, that was a big one.
First to last for the Canadians. New Zealand stays consistent to 2nd place, and it is the big winner, Australia, who will back up a 6th place performance for them. 90 seconds to go until the start of race number 4. It's Championship Sunday here in Plymouth. As the Americans look to turn their fortunes around, they had problems in Bermuda and Chicago. And right now, they're probably already thinking about the next event, which is coming up August 19th and 20th in Copenhagen, Denmark. But right now, there's work to be done as we come up on a minute to go before the start of race number 4 here on Championship Sunday at the Great Britain Sail Grand Prix of Plymouth. So 1 minute to go for the start of the race, Stevie. We've seen everyone coming from the back, the left side of the screen. We've seen people try to hug that inside line on the right side of the screen. Where do you think the fastest track is?
I think at the moment you can see the pre-positioning
This
happening.
is the umpires. Penalty New Zealand, relative Switzerland.
Ooh. Wow,
Right off the bat.
Said it was going to take 2 big mistakes. Well, you're making a mistake at 40 seconds out there. They're going to need to start back behind the Swiss boat here at the start line. Disaster. Top of screen. Great Britain and Ben Ainsley. He was the first boat heading back towards the start line. Great Britain and USA, they're in good controlling position here. They should be well set for a start. Lisa talked about it being very gusty on the water, so getting up on the foils, judging that acceleration is going to be really hard. Now we're coming in. The French early back towards the line. Out the back of the fleet at the moment, Canada, Switzerland and Spain are going to struggle from here, but with 7 seconds to go, it's going to be Great Britain. USA, they've got the boats up to speed. The French foiling in fast. Watch for the lines turn white. It's a clear start. The French at nearly 52 kilometres an hour. They're going to be fast as we head towards Mark 1. Delapierre with the pressure on. Looks like he's going to lead the fleet away.
Simple math as the French hit the line at full speed as they will make the move to mark number 1 first. The Americans and Great Britain with a great start this time.
It's a brilliant start by the French boat. Delapierre, he had a fantastically consistent day yesterday. Jimmy Spithill, well, he's been starting well. Can he stay where he starts? They need a big result on board the USA. They need to get the boat handling good. And there, Rockwell and Denmark, this really does open up the competition to make that final place.
France holding down the 3rd and final position into the final right now. The Americans, they are way down in the leaderboard. In Great Britain, they are battling for their life to get into the top 3. Who's going to blink first?
Nice move on the French. Looking for this hull to the left of your screen to stay dry. If it does, it's a good foiling manoeuvre. They're on the foils, they look good. Gate 2, top of the screen. That's where they're all heading to at the moment. And you can see, looking at these ladder lines, nearly 100 metres ahead is the French and Quentin Delapierre. And he has the ability to make his own decisions. When it's shifty like this, there's an opportunity to sail less distance. And the French can take that.
And here you've got the French doing 60 kilometres an hour downwind. That's equivalent to around 30 knots. So those are the numbers we should be looking out for today.
Great job by the French here now. They look like they're lined up for a right turn at the bottom of the course. Ainsley on board the British boat. He's overtaken the Americans down here, but that's a lovely rounding by the French. If you're in the lead in these conditions, you get to make your own choices. All the boats look keen on a right turn, and again, potentially 2 places lost by the US at the moment. They've sailed a little too wide, a little bit too much extra distance, and Nikolai Sehested, he's in the battle for the top 3 as well. And the Denmark Rockwell team round in 3rd. Good first leg by them.
So the Americans hoping at gate number 2 that this falling back is not going to be a trend. They were in 2nd place at Mark 1. They decide to make a quick maneuver here, and it will be the Americans in 4th, but it is all France all the time right now in the lead.
There we go. Quentin Delapierre doing well, but New Zealand back in 7th. Well, luckily they had a good race yesterday, so they should be still in strong position. At the moment, there's been a big shift in the wind. Look, the wind has turned to the right. The crews are struggling to progress up the ladder line. They're nearly sailing parallel to it. It's not good news for the French, could be good news for Jimmy Spithill, and it'll certainly be opportunity for Peter Burling and his New Zealand crew to get back in the race.
And to Stevie's point, look at this. Look at the angle they're sailing back up into the wind as the Americans now pull even with the French.
There's a lot of pressure on the American boat, but a lot of the debrief last night was quite positive. They were quite happy. They felt things were going well. Look at them on the right-hand side, tucked down, streamlined position, French in the background. When they next turn the boat, the Americans will have the right of way. So at the moment, for me, the Americans hold the lead, and there you go. The lines there show us that's the case.
And the speeds here are showing the split across the course. The USA are on the right side of the course, the Australians on the left. So far, we've seen the US with more breeze on that right-hand side, holding higher average speeds.
The question is, can Jimmy Spithill and the Americans hold on to this lead over the next 5 legs of this race and pick up a win here?
Look at the direction change on board the American boat there. They turn across there. The wind has shifted. That's an opportunity to minimize the distance you sail. They've turned away from the gate. They turn the boat one more time now. All of them cross the... Oh, it's a bad turn on the American boat, though. In the wind at the moment, it's Denmark. They've got more wind. They're sailing a lot faster.
Denmark decides to make a maneuver, and off to their left-hand side now, Great Britain and Ben Ainsley getting into the picture. So now we've got 4 boats as they approach the next gate.
It's like snakes and ladders out there at the moment, Todd. If you can get yourself in a gust of wind and get going faster, the chance to jump up the leaderboard is huge. 200 metres to go. Those arrows showing us the direction of travel for the fleet. And America from first back to fourth in the blink of an eye. And it's Ben Ainsley in Great Britain now setting up for a manoeuvre. In the background, Denmark are going to turn at the same time. Let's watch them turn. Oh, bad tack by Denmark. They just save it. Good save. Do they get clear ahead? It's going to be tight, but I think they are. Could be a lead at gate 3 for Denmark.
It's crucial here for Denmark and the Great British team to beat the Australians if they want a chance at making the final.
As it stands right now, as France is going to have to dip behind the USA, they have the right of way. As it stands right now, it is New Zealand, Australia, and France holding down those top 3 positions. We'll see how it plays out on the next race.
Big manoeuvre by Ainsley there, the tack, and then another turn at the top to bear the boat away. Denmark in the background, manoeuvre the boat one more time. The wind is shifting all the time. What that means is you've got to try and keep the boat pointing towards the next gate as much as possible. Minimise the distance you sail. That's how you're going to be able to overtake other boats. Shortest distance, really, really important today. And Denmark, Nikolaj Sejersted, doing a lovely job of piecing that all together at the moment. Here we go. Ben Ainsley looks good.
All right, let's check in down on the water with Lisa Darmanin.
Oh, it's so challenging out here. I've just been watching, not knowing which way to go, but I think the key today is sailing a shorter distance. It's super, super puffy, as I said at the beginning, but I think what the sailors really have to be onto is that the wind you're sailing is not necessarily the same wind as your competitors. So it's a really sail your own race and sail shorter distance day out here.
Stevie, are they thinking 1, maybe even 2 maneuvers ahead, knowing that what Lisa's saying, the wind is so shifty today?
Absolutely. They're trying to position themselves as best they can, but what they really need to be doing is focusing on their boat and letting themselves sail the boat well to be looking ahead. Yeah, that's Sejersted. He thinks he might be able to make it straight to the gate with no more turns, but it's going to be tight. On the inside, it's Ainsley. He will have the right of way.
Oh
this is so tight here. Sejersted must give him room. Oh, that was a tight manoeuvre by Ainsley, but what a manoeuvre. He's on the inside. I'm surprised if there won't be a protest. Sejersted pushed that so close. But Ainsley, well, he needed to deliver in race 4 today. Be nothing better than a first-place finish to help him in his fight for the final.
Let's look at that one more time. Stevie, you talk about Great Britain have the right of way. Look on board with Denmark.
Great Britain are on the inside. They're allowed to turn around that mic. Sejersted and Denmark must give him room. It was tight, but for me it was fair. That was a good, tight racing manoeuvre. Ainsley saw a chance and took it.
So the rest of the fleet making their way down to the bottom of the course. Meanwhile, it is Denmark and Great Britain out in front, both of them on the outside looking in, trying to get into the top 3. And a 1-2 finish here for both of these squads, Stevie and Emily, would be huge going forward.
I think we need to probably take a breath and have a little bit of a think about the scores. But yes, looking ahead to the race for the final for Denmark and Great Britain, this is amazing. But there's no sign of Canada. There's no sign of Australia. The pressure's really on. Oh, here we go. On to turning the boat. They have the right of way on Denmark, but Ainsley looks like he's clear ahead. He sets up for one more turn. It's going to be a match race between these two at the head of the fleet. But can the French, can the Australians find their way back into the race? It's tight. Certainly, at the moment, de la Pierre's not going away, but he has a penalty.
Quentin Delapierre and France have a penalty to absolve. You see the P next to their name, traveling at 43 kilometers an hour. Tom Slingsby, the two-time defending champion, the winner of the first two events of the season, he currently sits in 4th place. But it is on in full with Denmark and Great Britain battling for position here on the Plymouth Sound.
This is going to be huge when we look at the points. With the British winning, if they win this race, that's another 10 points. They'll be ahead of the Kiwis as it currently stands.
Great turn by the British there. Denmark, of course, 2012 when Ben Ainsley won his 4th gold medal. The silver medalist then was a Danish sailor. Jonas Christensen, heavily involved with the Danish team, so he's been here before. He knows how to deliver underwater. This is the final upwind leg, not a lot of the race left. And there's Ben Ainsley taking a look at what's happened.
And look at Australia coming into view as well. So it'll be up to the top of the course, then back down, and then the long straightaway blast to the finish line for the conclusion of race number 4. And right now it is Great Britain, Ben Ainsley and squad doing exactly what they needed to do. But here comes Slingsby.
Slingsby and Australia have the right of way. Denmark must take avoiding action. That's going to be tight. They've done a nice job, but that's Slingsby up to 2nd. He's sailing fantastically in these shifty winds, managing to minimise the distance.
Right, gate for 120 it is.
Ainsley and Ian Jensen, the wing trim, are talking to each other. They're trying to make a plan. Are we going to turn right at the top? Are we going to turn left at the top? Listening in on the British. Oh, there we go. Sorry about the industrial language there. Winds dropped completely for the British and shifted. They've fallen off the foils. They're vulnerable. They're a sitting duck at the moment. They need to re-accelerate. Look at the speed difference. Top of mast, 20 kilometres now, Great Britain. Australia, 38. They need to get foiling again on the British boat, or they could lose vital points.
And quickly back up and foiling, so Ben Ainsley and squad do a masterful job as the rest of the fleet was closing in on them. Now it's Tom Slingsby in Australia cutting on the inside of Denmark, and they will take over 2nd position.
Very, very weird pressure plane, Aim high. And board.
Remember, coming in today was all New Zealand with 28 points. Emily, they are having not the best race, that is an understatement, but they can afford to have a problem here. The rest of the fleet, though, is 6 boats basically battling for 3 positions.
It is, but having a result this bad could really impact the Kiwis. The Brits here are going to move ahead of them on the leaderboard after this race, and the Danish are also going to be closing that gap dramatically with the French and the Aussies.
Canada also having a problematic day here in race number 4 after picking up a big victory yesterday, and then that one incident where they put the nose into the water and they finished in 9th place. So Phil Robertson looking for a big rebound. Steve, this is going to put huge amount of implications on race 5.
It's a lot on it, but look, the wind is changing direction all the time. The British, they've sailed a long distance, top of screen. Slingsby's almost sailing straight down the course at the moment, straight towards the gate. Has Ainsley made this call right? On paper, the Australians are neck and neck with the British. It's going to depend on how many more turns there are to do. I think off the screen, Peter Burling has managed to pull a bit of a rabbit out of a hat and gotten himself back into the race. It's tight. One more turn for the Australians. Here they go. They have the right of way, but have they closed the gap to Ainsley and the British? It doesn't look like it to me.
And look at the speed difference. Great Britain still hovering around 54 kilometers an hour. The Australians drop down to 45.
Great shot here, top of screen. Look at those dark patches of water. Look at the different colours on the water. That's gusts of wind. And at the moment you can see in a big gust of wind, top of screen, New Zealand doing 60 kilometres an hour. They're absolutely flying back into this race.
So the Kiwis have moved up to 5th place, just 1 spot behind France. They hold down positions 1 and 3 currently on the overall standings, but it is Ben Ainsley that has made the left-hand turn, and he's heading towards the hoe, and all the fans that have turned out to see a great British performance. Remember, this is a huge weekend of sporting events in England with the Commonwealth Games, SailGP, and of course the Women's Euro title game, England versus Germany. And here's where they stand at the moment, Emily.
And if the results stay like this for this race, New Zealand will still be in the lead, but British team will be going into that final. But it's still all to play for. Another race to go after this.
And Great Britain will bring it home and pick up the victory in race number 4, a much-needed showing for Ben Ainsley and company.
There we go. That's the voice of Ian Jensen talking about what's ahead as they sail back towards the Hoe. There's a lot more land around. That land will block the wind, will shift the wind around, change the direction of it. Still all to play for. That's why Ben Ainsley was looking out the back there, checking where his opposition are. And we can see now those points are going to be so tight.
And race number 4 will go the way of Great Britain. Ben Ainsley, after not the best performance on day number 1, comes back in day number 2, and the first race of the day sends a message to the rest of the fleet. The Brits are back as they claim the win in race 4. So Great Britain comes across the line, and it is official. Great Britain will win race number 4, much to the delight of the fans up on the Hoe.
Great job there. He said, nice hustle, guys. And I think without doubt that was a real hustle for Ben Ainsley and the crew. They really worked hard on the wind shift. It was tight at times. Nikolai Seherstedt and his crew put up a fantastic battle. But yeah, we can see it's so shifty, so changeable. You've got to stay focused on your own world. Great job by the Danish, great job by the British. And Australia, again, he does seem so good at working his way back through the fleet. Showing third at the moment. Still some sailing to do yet for the Australian boat to get across that line, though.
Well, everyone doing some quick work on the abacus right now to find out exactly where these points will put them. Great work by the Australians and Tom Slingsby, the 2-time defending champions, as they will finish in 3rd place. And the French and Quentin Delapierre will come into 4th.
There's really big changes in the wind direction across there, and we can see the Australians lost the Danish on that last leg. They got caught out by a big change of direction in the wind. Canada, look at the left-hand side of the screen. They were so good yesterday, bar that one mistake, but a 9th place, that could pretty much end their hope of a podium finish here in Plymouth. Delapierre and the French crew, well, they've done, well, look, New Zealand in the background, they're having to do an extra 2 turns to get to the finish line. The wind is so tricky and changeable under the Hoe. This race is not going to be over until it's over.
The Americans also in the same boat.
Oh, you see
Look
that?
at this.
That was the voice of Peter Burling. I've lost the rudders. They fell too high. You can see in the bottom of the screen the water there, all foamy and ventilating. That's no good. But coming across the line in 5th place for New Zealand, and it's Jimmy Spitter. Wow, it was near but not quite again for the American crew. Another 6th place finish. Wow, it all happened on that final leg in towards Plymouth Hoe. A lot of changes. 7th place for Spain and Jordi Chamard after a tricky day before. Seb Schneider and the Swiss team going to get an 8th, and wow, disaster for Canada, Todd.
Yeah, you look at Canada, they win the first race in race number 1 yesterday, and then they come back and have that problem where they had put the nose in. They finish in 9th, but then they back it up in race number 3 with a 3rd, and then they start day 2 out with another 9th place, Stevie. And to your point, that is almost going to seek their chances of getting into that final. Yeah,
I mean, it was a mistake yesterday where they flew off the foils, broke the boat. I mean, this is just it's a tricky tactical day's racing out here. It's the kind of day today where mistakes can happen, but if you've already had a bad one, you just have to deliver. And wow, the British crew to come out firing with a 1st place finish is great, but limping across the line in last place. Yeah, probably the first time they've ever finished last in a race. It's going to be interesting how Phil Robertson can try and pick that crew back up, see if they can give one big finish at the end of the racing here.